So the impetus for having a 3-month retreat really was born out of our experience of practice in Asia. And many of us were there for extended periods of time. Most of us were there as lay practitioners, not as monks or nuns. And so we weren't in a year-round monastery. I was practicing, for example, in Bodh Gaya, which is the place of the Buddha's enlightenment, and it was very seasonal dependent because the summers in Bodh Gaya were very, very hot, like 120 degrees. So the Westerners who were there to practice usually left to go up to the mountains, the cooler climate. So the practice periods, the intensive practice periods, were really in chunks of several months rather than extending non-stop over years. So for myself, for example, I would sit 3 to 5 months at a time, then maybe go up to the mountains, or a couple of times I would have to come home, make some money to be able to go back. So the model for myself and many of my colleagues was this idea of intensive practice for several months at a time, then a break, and then another period of several months at a time. So that was in our minds when we came back to the States. We started teaching. In the first year or so, we were going around teaching in different places. They were mostly shorter retreats. We did start with 1-month retreat, which was actually the first retreat we taught. It was in Sequoia National Forest. But after that, it was mostly 2 weeks or 10 days, and it was very grassroots. There was no advertising or anything like that. Just different groups of people would invite us to come and lead a retreat. So we did this for about a year, just traveling around, offering these shorter retreats. And then we had the thought, remembering how we practiced in Asia, and having built up, we might say, a cadre of meditators who had begun to do these shorter retreats. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could create a situation where people could have a similar experience to the ones we had in India, to provide a 3-month retreat for people. So all this was before we started IMS. And the first 3-month retreat was in 1975 in Bucksport, Maine. And in a way, it was just an experiment. Here we were very young teachers, just back from Asia, going around teaching. It was kind of a leap of faith, to offer this, to see if people would come, to see how we would do in teaching it. And even though we've learned a lot since then, for the most part, it went really well. People really got a lot out of that period of extended practice. The following year is when IMS opened in 1976. And so having had that experience in Maine, we just built the 3-month retreat into the yearly schedule. And at first, I can't remember exactly, but maybe there were 35 people. It was a smaller number. But people were on fire with practice. There was so much interest and enthusiasm to have this chance to do extended intensive meditation practice. I'm not aware of other situations like that outside of monasteries, which are established for year-round living and practicing. So this was kind of a new vision, for lay people living their lives in the world, but committed enough to Dharma practice, who somehow managed to arrange their lives to take time for 3 months of intensive meditation, which is a big commitment. You know, people really have to first be very motivated, and then for many people it takes some doing to create the conditions that allow for it. But somehow those conditions and all of those folks who wanted to practice in that way, they were there. And they came in every year. They went from 35 and then 40 or 50 and then 60 or 70 people. And at times we've had between 80 and 100 people.